Two of the current issues now going to be interviewed by Ben Parker.
Alright, Dan, first question. What are drugs?
So, drugs are something that changes the chemical balance in your body. In sport, it tends to be something to improve the chemical balance and aid performance of an activity.
What effects do drugs have on sport?
So, drugs have different effects, so they obviously change the chemical balance in your body, but their athletes use them to improve their performance within a sport. So, for example, anabolic steroids allow you to grow muscles stronger and faster, so that you become stronger and faster in performance. Diuretics are used to help remove water from the body to make you lighter. For example, used in boxing, judo, and different martial arts to get you down weight groups.
Thanks, Dan. Any sport examples related to drugs?
So the most famous one is probably Lance Armstrong case, who used them when he won 7 Tour de France's. He used one called EPOS, which was like a blood transfusion drug, which allowed red blood cells to form and grow quicker, obviously to increase the oxygen supply around his body.
Oh, yeah. And any improvements being made to stop drugs in sport?
Well, especially over the last 10 years, many drugs have been blacklisted for different sports, and obviously occur in bans if athletes caught using. For example, like anabolic steroids in weightlifting. If an athlete is caught using them, then they become banned. They can be a lifetime ban with a minimum of 2 years.
Yeah, Dan, can you evaluate kind of future developments of stopping use of supplying drugs in sports?
So obviously science is constantly improving within sport. So for example, like EPOS back in the Lance Armstrong case, you couldn't actually measure it then and there. But it's not until now that we have more science and the technology to measure this kind of stuff. And further on to the future, we're going to be looking at more scientific methods to measure different drugs that can't quite be measured right now.
Awesome.
Obviously, along with more bans and harsh penalties, and fairer penalties.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Alright, we're going to move on to deviance now, Dan. And can you just quickly explain to me what is deviance?
So deviance is behaviour that falls outside the norms or outside what is deemed acceptable. This in sport means playing against the rules or known as cheating, which is also known as gamesmanship.
And kind of what effect does deviance have on sport?
Well, it's kind of like the unwritten rules of a sport, so it's like not very good sportsmanship. So we're looking at, like, for example, in football, if a player goes down injured and the opposing team doesn't kick the ball out to play to allow treatment, or if, like in boxing, when the players almost bind together like a scrummage, then we're looking at, like, that's not really what we're allowed to do, but it's not necessarily rules in cheating.
Okay. And can I have any sport examples that can help you evaluate the problems of deviance?
So, for example, in rugby, the quarter-final of the European Cup, Harlequins versus another rugby team, I can't quite remember. A player came off injured, which was a kicker, and he came off injured, and they put a new player on, but they knew he put a blood capsule in, so they knew he'd come off pretty instantly, so they could put the kicker back on to try and score the point, because at the time they were 1 point down, and they needed the kicker to try and score a drop goal. Obviously, it's not necessarily the rules, but it's not very good sportsmanship.
Yes, great example. Alright, we're going to move on to racism. Firstly, again, can you explain to me what is racism?
So racism is prejudice, discrimination or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on their belief of that prejudice, discrimination or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on their belief that one's race is superior.
Awesome. And kind of what effect does racism have on sport?
So the massive part is forms of bullying. So this will reduce the participation rate in sport. So players getting bullied not going to come back to training or games, and it's going to give that sport a bad example. So like, there's a lot of stereotypes within sport that sometimes like black players can't join in things like yachting, polo, and also some people feel that they might not be accepted if they move to a sport like American football because it's not in their culture.
Yeah, so moving on from that, any sport examples you've got on recent?
Sport examples of football, we've seen Luis Suarez, Liverpool footballer. He reportedly called Patrice Evra from Manchester United, a phrase referring to his skin colour and complexity in a disrespectful way, and that's along with a 4-match ban and a 40-round fine.
Yeah, just kind of move on to that. By the way, any initiatives being used regarding racism?
So initiatives at the moment, especially in football, you're looking at kick racing is out of football. So this is directed if there's any racial events on the pitch, or especially if there's any racism between the fans, and you can report it, and then someone might deal with it. As often, normally about once a year, they do a big celebration, a big event to try and promote this, where players often wear name badges, patches on their arms, and there's big kind of videos, lots of things going on to try and promote it.
Yes, very big enough. Alright, Jan, thank you. And the final one we're going to look at is kind of gender inequality and sexism. Just, can you, what is it?
So this is prejudice, stereotyping and discrimination, typically against women on the basis of their sex. However, it can be against both genders or sexes.
Yeah, and how does this affect kind of sport?
So this affects sports because it might reduce the participation rate, similar to how racism would. So forms of bullying or sexism against typical women might stop them from participating in events, going back to training, going to games, and giving the sport a bad example.
Alright,
And obviously reducing the participation rate overall.
yeah, it's got a big one. Alright, and finally, what kind of sport examples can explain the issue of gender inequality and sexism in sport?
So even within the sport, but not necessarily in the game, we've had examples of the Chelsea footballer Dr. Eva Cannavero, who had a disagreement with Jose Mourinho, the Chelsea manager at the time, and she was actually fans were actually being quite abusive to her, calling her names and saying stuff like "get your tits out," which was obviously not acceptable at the time, which resulted in somehow the doctor losing a job and fans being sanctioned.
Right, done.
So, yeah.